Welcome to LibertyCon 33, and this is the Meet the Newbies panel part 3. We will go through here, let everybody have a chance to pimp themselves and their works and where you can find them, and you get to find out who these people are. So we have a nice little trusty. Oh wait, no. Let's see. We got 8 of you. Pull out my D8. Let's see who goes first. Number 1, Ann Lewis. Tell us about yourself and what you do.
As he said, my name's Margaret Lewis, and it's kind of funny. When we did the Silver Empire reporting, Russ had said that I was a vet, but I'm not. I'm definitely a newbie. I started my writing career about 20 years ago when I was working for DC Comics, and I left DC. I started writing their tie-in children's books and short stories for their children's magazine. And that was a lot of fun. After that, I was asked to do the Star Wars Essential Guide to Alien Species. And I did 2 editions of that. And then I kind of like took a break and had a baby. And went to spend a little bit of time just sort of working on prose. And then I came back in 2010 and I wrote 2 Sherlock Holmes pastiches novels that were published. First one was Murder in the Vatican. The Church Mysteries of Sherlock Holmes, and the second one is the Watson Chronicles, and both came out from Wessex Press, which is a Sherlockian publisher, but they do all sorts of mystery stuff, and they're pretty good. And after that, I took another little break and decided to switch gears again and decided to go into space opera. So my first book to come out in a space opera is Nephilim Corruption. That took a little bit of a journey because it was originally published by a different publisher, and they changed the title. The first title was Warrior of the Kazan, and they changed it to Nephilim Corruption. And of course, the whole series is the Warrior of the Kazan series. I just finished book 2. That should be out in a couple months. So it's coming along. I just happen to be one of those slow writers, and it takes me a little while, but it's really cool to be at LibertyCon online, at least. I bought my membership, what is it, now 2 years ago now?
Yeah, 2 years ago.
2 years ago, and I am really looking forward to actually going to this convention because I've heard such wonderful things about it, and to actually go and see, in person, it'd be really, really cool. I'd love to meet everybody in person.
Next year is going to be amazing, and there's going to be so many people there.
Oh my gosh. Are they increasing the attendance for this?
They increased the attendance up to 1,000 last year after having they had to go through the whole board committee thing because they're a charity, they're a 501c charity or whatever, so they had to go through all that. But they did increase it a little bit, not by much, but just a little. All right, so
I should say where to find me. Is that what I got to do next?
We can do that in a minute.
Okay, all right.
We'll go around here. 8.
Right.
Phil.
Hi there. My name is Philip K. Booker, and I largely right now have short stories and anthologies, flash fiction pieces out, but I am working currently on 4 novels at least. I got.
Hey Phil, where's my novel?
Yeah, exactly. That's my daily prompting. So I got started with LibertyCon at 6 years ago, I think was my first LibertyCon, and been attending as a guest for every one of them since then, even the digital ones. So next year in person, I am so looking forward to seeing all my beloved friends again. But I'm all legit and an author now. Instead of just an avid reader, and got published starting in 2019 with Storming Area 51 anthology, and then hooked up my coattails with Mr. Roberts, and joined the Corner Scribblers writing group, where we put out quarterly anthologies, as well as some annual bigger pieces, and a couple of those are what are becoming my my novel pieces. And I look forward to sharing those out with everybody, because these stories have been running room in my brain for a while, and it's time they start earning their keep.
All right, so new dice. I love this thing. It's heavy. It's copper. It hurts. 1, 2, 3. Mike.
Which one? There's two.
Oh, Morten.
Okay. All right. So my name's Michael Morten. I am a retired Air Force veteran, 20 years working in space operations. Unfortunately, I retired before Space Force came around, but fortunately, I get to go to work for them as a civilian. So it's a great job. I enjoy my everyday work. Started writing fan fiction back in the 90s with a group on AOL. So been around for a while with that. A lot of Mercedes Lackey stuff, and then branched out into some urban fantasy from there. But got my real writing start a couple of years ago. JF Holmes over at Canon Publishing took a look at some of the stuff that I was posting for feedback and said, hey, I'd love to have you as part of an anthology. So written a couple of things for him. Got in on the ground floor of Joint Task Force 13, which, as just been noticed, the Origins book has been made into an audiobook. So take a look for that. Lots of good writers in there. And the Three Ravens is continuing that, Joint Task Force 13. So looking to write a future novel on that as well. But I'm currently working again with JF Holmes and Canon on the Fallen Empires series, which is what happens after a alien-run human empire, of which humans were subjugated by it, falls, and the chaos and everything that goes along with that. Very military-centric in the mode of Hammer Slammers or Jerry Purnell and the Falkenberg's Legion type stuff. So be working on a book for that. It's a Space Marine book. These guys are kind of like the Force Recon of the future world. They're the ones that work EVA. They do assaults on spaceships, planetoids, space stations, things like that. So that's been a lot of fun working on that. But I'm also got a side project going with short stories and anthologies. Submitted one for the Baen Fantasy Adventure Award. So going up against some big hitters there, but hopefully I'll make a good showing on that. And then a couple others with Bayonet Press and with Chris Kennedy Publishing. Rob Howell has an anthology he's looking for stories for. So I'll throw my hat in the ring for that one. Just recently attended Fantasy. It's my first convention that I've been to since 1997. So I was a little hesitant sticking my toe back into that realm, but that was a lot of fun. Looking forward to going to future ones. It's a small con. It's a really good chance to connect with authors and other fans. So really enjoyed it, and looking forward to working with Three Ravens and Fallen Empires and whoever else can come along and is willing to look at my work.
All right, so next victim, Kincaid.
All right, my name is Kincaid, but my pen name is Michael K. Falciani. I know this is a newbie panel. I think, and I could be wrong about this, but for all the newbies, I think I'm the newest of the newbies. I have the shine still on me because my first debut novel is not even out yet. It will be out in 9 days. Very exciting. It's called, it's an epic fantasy novel. It's called The Raven and the Crow, Dark Storm Rising. It is the first in a planned 6-book series. I just did an interview for the local news on it, so dozens of people are lining up to buy it already. I can't wait. I'm also working on, for Three Ravens Publishing, I've sent in an anthology for their Trailer Park series. It's called Hell Hath No Fury. It was probably the most fun writing I've ever done. And it's urban fantasy. It's not something I was used to. I had no idea what it was going to be like, but as I was banging away on the keys, I was sitting there going, this might be my finest work ever. So we'll see. Maybe I'll get a shot at that. Like Mike Morten there, I also put in for the Chris Kennedy the contest for the monster story. I didn't realize I was going up against such dignitaries. He said there were several big hitters for the Baen contest. I put in for that as well. There's a little hitter in that one as well, Mike. So we'll see how it goes. I'm currently working on a dwarven steampunk novel as well. I haven't titled it yet, although it is also a lot of fun to write. So I have my hand in many different things. I hope that Three Ravens will publish all of them and make us all tons of money. It'll be raining cash on us. Other than that, I can't wait to go to this is my first convention, so I'm really excited about being part of it. So thanks for having me.
All right. Let's see. Switch it. 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's Taylor.
Hi, my name is Tim C. Taylor, and this is going to be my first American convention that I've actually turned up to. I was actually booked to go to Fantasy last year, but that didn't really quite work out. So, about me, I've been a full-time writer and publisher since 2011. I tend to write military science fiction and space opera, although particularly with short stories, I move around to other things. So I've written for quite a few anthologies, of which Storming Area 51, had I mentioned earlier, that was certainly the biggest, heaviest anthology I've been in. There's a lot of words in that one. I'm probably best known, at least in terms of sold most copies, for my Human Legion series. So I don't know if it's going to work on here, but that's, there we go. That's it's not going to work in the background, but there's a big stack that weighs about 10 inches, and that's the paperbacks. But I'm actually kind of connected to Liberty Con, I think, because through Chris Kennedy Publishing. So I've written 4 novels in the Four Horsemen universe series, and currently, since February, Chris Kennedy Publishing have been publishing a novel each month in my Chimera Company series. So there's a fantastic artist called Vincent Sammy, and he does the covers and he does the backdrop, which is the cover of one of my Chimera Company books. And that's me.
All right. Next victim is Brisco.
Let me turn this microphone on. So I am a newbie. I've got one book that was published last year called Relations. It's in the Fallen World universe. My brother Christopher Woods created that universe, and he kept telling me, we would, go back and forth on it. He kept telling me, you need to write something. You need to write a story in this anthology. So I wrote a story in this anthology, From the Ashes, and he and Chris Kennedy both said, look, you need to turn that into a book. So I was like, all right, I'll give it a whirl. I guess I'm an author. I've been published a few times, so that's really awesome. It's a great feeling. During that time, I branched out and said, hey, I'm gonna write something a little different. I wrote a science fiction short story. My brother sent it to Kevin Steverson, who said, hey, if you beef that up a little bit, I'll put it in this book that I'm putting out called The Long and the Short of It. So that one went out in an anthology with him, and I had another one shortly, actually, that went out before that in an anthology with him. I've got a story into William there for the Starflight Universe anthology that's coming out. What else? I will write something in JTF 13 maybe someday. It's on my calendar, or it's on my list of stuff to do. I am in the middle of another book in the Fallen World. I've got a short story that'll be coming out in the next anniversary, or in the next anthology with that world, and then I'll have another novel following up on that short story. So on top of all of that, keep myself busy selling houses.
All right. Oh, Paula and Richard, who's going to be the next one? Paula.
Oh boy. Right. Who am I? What do I do? What am I doing here? Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I have my first book out from Silver Empire Press. It's part of the Heroes Unleashed shared universe. It's the first young adult book in the series. It's called Penance. It's about a scrappy ex-hench girl who's tired of being a tool for evil, and she's clinging to the vague memory of her mother's faith and decides that that's about as much information as she's ever going to have to go on in order to become a good person and have a future. So she's trying to escape the shame of her past and make a future for herself if she can stay out of trouble for 5 minutes, which that doesn't really happen. Yeah, there's a alien invasion and superpowers and portals to another world and all kinds of cool stuff going on. I just kept throwing stuff in. It held together better than I expected it to. So I've gotten some really good reviews on it, and I hope I reach a lot of people. I wrote it to really for readers, because I was the kind of reader who would have really gotten into getting to know these characters, and not like self-insert characters, but like getting to know the people in the book as like real people. And there's not really a lot of that going on in young adult books now. It's a very weird trend going on. I'm a bit of a throwback. Let's see. I also have comics that I'm working on. I have a comic series called Soulbound. It's a fantasy series about a college student who gets thrown into a world of magic, myth, and monsters. And I have some solo projects that I'm working on that are taking a little while because I'm working on everything at once. I tend to have a lot of projects. And there was something else, and I've completely forgotten it. Thank you so much.
It's all good. All right. Last but not least, Richard Watts.
It's like I'm back in grade school, W for the last name. So just no problems. I'm here. Thanks to Paula, so I'm not last, and thanks to Michael Falciani for making me the least newbie. I have been writing short stories, I don't know, for at least the last 30 years, probably, and just recently felt the need to start publishing them. I started writing things based on campaigns that friends ran in D&D or something, do some world building, write some short stories for the characters so I could get to know them before I play them. And I've continued that practice and that sort of character development kind of stuff. And I was able to get some short stories published from Silver Empire in the Stayers anthology and the Paragons anthology. And they liked my Paragon short story, which was the Supers anthology, enough to ask me, would I be interested in doing something longer form? So I, of course, said, yeah. And I wrote The Last Archon, which is also in that Heroes Unleashed universe that Paula's part of with Penance, and was kicked off with Morgan Newquist's Heroes Fall. And the Last Archon, it follows the last survivor of Atlantis, because if you're going to design a universe's Sorcerer Supreme, why not make him from Atlantis? I mean, seems like the thing to do. And then I promptly blew Atlantis up. So he's been around for several thousand years, and now he's finally running out of enhanced life. He is dying, and he's teaching his last apprentice. And of course, that's when evil takes that exact moment to show up, and he has to deal with saving the world while making sure that he can pass the torch off to the new guy, the young guy. And it was a ton of fun to write. I enjoyed it a lot. Lots of action, and I hope a little more than just entertainment, but also some aspiration thrown in. It's been a joy to do, and I'm looking forward to writing the second one. Unlike all of you guys, I handle like one project at a time, so the queue just keeps building up with things. Ideas keep coming, but I can't get it out fast enough. And like many of you, I also have a day job. I'm a teacher, so I have to write in on lunch break or something. But thank you for having me, and it's a joy to meet all of you. And listeners, I hope that you'll consider all of these people and help us give you some joy through our writing. Thanks.
All right, so we have a little bit of time. So how about we go around the table here and find out what got you started in writing? You want to go ahead and start, Richard?
Sure. Well, I've always been a voracious reader. I can't remember a time when I wasn't reading. What got me into fantasy and sci-fi was Greek mythology. I was in middle school, 5th grade, had a huge collection of Greek myths in the, I say huge, you know, the shelf that long of Greek myths that we read. And I read them and I read them and I read them and I ran out of them. And I went to the librarian and I said, I want more of this, please. And she handed me The Hobbit and said, have at it. And man, it was off to the races. So I remember reading all of this stuff. And at some point I got into D&D with some friends. And through that got into, it was R.A. Salvatore. And I remember reading one of his early books and I must have been, I don't know, 12 at the time. And I'm reading one of his early Dritz novels, I think it was, and going, I could do this, which was horribly arrogant, but thinking I could do that. And so I started writing some stuff for friends, and they were awful, but I never need to see the light of day. But I kept doing it and kept writing short stories, took creative writing classes in high school, college, won a competition in high school, got told, hey, you should do more of this, and then promptly forgot about it all. So didn't do that for about 10 years, and then picked it back up again. So it's been a lot of fun to get back into and be able to express myself in that way. So.
All right, opposite corner, Brisco.
Yes, sir. So I talked about it a little bit. My brother is Christopher Woods, and he's been authoring for quite some time now. And I would just talk back and forth with him about what he was writing, and I was his sounding board until he met his wonderful wife, Wendy. And he kept telling me I should write something. I never even considered writing. It was never on my list of things to do. And coming out, he said, look, write a story, put it in there. If it does good, great. If it does not, you'll know it. So I did, and people liked it. And I thought, well, that's really cool. I will try a little bit more. And they liked that. I said, okay, well, I'll try a little bit more. And I got some good reviews on that. So yeah, that's really, you know, it was never planned. I did read a lot as a kid. I started reading a little more probably when I was in the 4th grade, and read the whole Xanth series, all of it that was written at the time. Piers Anthony. What else I don't even remember. I read so much stuff when I was a kid. If it had words in it, I read it. Then my brother, again, you can just blame him. I do. He was at LibertyCon, and one of his books he found out was in the running for a Dragon Award. And so I went down there to support him at LibertyCon, the last LibertyCon that was in person. And I thought, you know, these are cool people. I kind of like this. I like this atmosphere. And now here we are, LibertyCon virtual, right? I was at Fantasy a couple weeks ago. That was my very first con as a published author, and it was a blast. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed getting to talk to a lot of the other folks who have similar stories, who are writing because they really enjoy it, and it was just a blast. So that's me in a nutshell.
All right, Phil.
Hi. Well, I've been an off and on reader for most of my life. I was the weird kid who got really into reading like John Grisham novels when I was in middle school, and then somebody introduced me to Michael Crichton because Jurassic Park, and I tore through his entire library after that. And then I got detoured because dice and role-playing games, and that veered me off of my writing, because I did some writing early on, and that stuff shall never see the light of day. That's one of those rites of passage. And years later, things like Jim Butcher were introduced to me, and urban fantasy became sort of a a huge draw for me. That's one of my preferred wheelhouses, but I write in a bunch of other things too. And so, yeah, it comes in waves, but so now I write just about every genre you can think of, and I've done a couple of them on dares, including Chris Kennedy. I wrote in his wife's romance universe, and that was one of my younger ones popping his head in because I have 5 kids, so life is hectic. So my wife likes to say I did well with the writing and the romance.
All right, Anne.
Well, like a lot of the people here, like Richard and stuff like that, I started out, I was a voracious reader as a kid. That kind of like starts the whole ball rolling. And I started writing fan fiction my first love was Star Wars. Of course, Star Wars and Star Trek and all that stuff. So I wrote fan fiction that was published, and this is what they used to do before the internet really took off. And I was kind of dating myself, but they had fanzines, and I had stuff published in fanzines, and gosh, it's horrible. I go back and I look at it, but what's really cool about having that is I can look at it and see, I could see where I had good bones. You know what I'm saying? I knew how to tell a story. I had good dialogue. But there was some growth that needed to happen. So I could see that, and I look at it now, it's like, I'm so much a better writer now. Isn't that nice? But yeah, I started writing with fan fiction. I also, like Richard and Philip, I wrote stuff based on role-playing games. If I was in a role-playing stuff, I'd write about the characters and stuff like that. That stuff, as we said, will never see the light of day. It was horrible. But it certainly is a good place to start. And one of the things is Joyce as a mom. I have a kid who's really more of a he's more techie, he's into math and science and things like that. And he came recently and he goes, Mom, did you write fan fiction? I said, yes, I did. And he goes, can I write fan fiction? I'm like, go ahead. I'm not going to stop you. So that's where it started. And then, of course, the first paid gigs I had were in other people's universes. So that it came in handy, being able to play in someone else's universe and play respectfully in other universes. So doing what is this? This is a pastiche. It's fan fiction. Okay, guys. But it was actually published. So can't really complain there. So, but yeah, that's how it kind of started out. And then I started creating my own universe, and the rest is history. So it's been a lot of fun.
There we go. Paula.
Oh, hey, it's me again. Let's see. I have been reading forever again. I guess same story. Voracious reader, could not get enough books. Like keeping me in books was like trying to keep a kid having a growth spurt in clothes. It's like I just kept needing more books. And so my family didn't really have the budget for this. So we would go to like the flea market, which is where all my clothes came from. And I would get all my books from the flea market. And there was a very random assortment. There was Anne McCaffrey and some Robin McKinley, not enough of Robin McKinley, and some Piers Anthony, the doubles and triples of Piers Anthony for some reason, and Trixie Belden and Nancy Drew, and I had like close to 100, and Hardy Boys, and I just kept acquiring books, and finally I couldn't find any more flea market books because I had like doubles and triples of everything that showed up randomly. Everyone else was greedy and held on to their books and didn't sell them for a quarter. So I joined the science fiction book club, and I got all the good books out of there. And then I already had everything that was good, and the rest of it was depressing and modernist and very realism, pink slime, gray sludge sort of stuff. I bought Anne Banks' Matter, and it's beautifully written. It's a massive book. extremely depressing. Did not like the ending. And that was probably the best out of the new crop of science fiction that I had. So I was very upset with the state of the genre. And I was writing my own stuff at the time, and I thought, well, I'm never going to get this published because at college and all the writers' workshops and everything, they say that what you're supposed to write, you research what's getting published now, and then you look at who published it, and so you write what's being published right now, and then you find the publisher that published it, and then you pitch to them. And I hated everything. So I was never going to be published, and I was going to be a failure forever. And then I discovered Silver Empire. And that was fun. I was also in the Paragons anthology. I forgot to mention it. Thank you, Richard. So they actually accepted my short story, and then they actually accepted my novel. And I thought, well, I just wasted a lot of money at college and on those writers' workshops. And so I've always been reading. I've always been reading. I've always been writing. Now I'm actually getting somewhere. So.
And Russ and Morgan are good people too.
Yeah.
I've known Russ for years. All right, Tim.
So my route to writing is via beer. So yeah, perhaps I'll explain that. When I was at university, I discovered the joys of real ale, as we call it, but to you, it probably will be craft ale. So I get a little obsessive about things. So I learned a lot about the brewing industry. I went on pilgrimages to places like Burton-on-Trent because that's where Bass came from. And I've made my own beer. So I mashed my own grains. I didn't pick my own hops, but I selected them, made them to my own recipe and so on. And the whole thing, it really deepened my pleasure of enjoying beer because I'd made some and I had to go and I had my disasters, but I knew so much more about it. So about a dozen years later, I thought, well, I've been reading science fiction and fantasy since I could read. So why don't I deepen my pleasure and enjoyment of science fiction and fantasy by having a go at writing some? And the idea of actually being published was, didn't really feature. So I guess in a way it was kind of fan fiction because I first of all, I wrote some Doctor Who. At the time, Doctor Who was off the TV, but they were still subscribing to the ongoing 8th Doctor novels. So I wrote some, as if I'd got some characters in this thing. I thought, this is quite good. And then about 2 days later, I thought, well, it's more interesting to write my own things, which is interesting because I've come around to writing other people's universes an awful lot. So I sketched out some ideas, and that was the basis of what would become quite a few years later as the Human Legion and Chimera Company and Revenge Squad and all sorts of other things I've written. That was sort of 2 days after I had this idea for why don't I write something because it might be interesting. But for a very long time, I had no idea that I would be published. And I had this sort of rather depressing experience, rather like Paula's just described, that when I started to make contact with writers groups and look at what was getting published in the UK, in things like genre magazines, I was struggling to find things that really I enjoyed, and I didn't think that they would really be interested in what I was writing because it's particularly in the UK, it's quite narrow and inward looking. I think it's fair to say the scene. So in a way that freed me up. So I just wrote whatever I fancied, and I had no idea that I would ever get published. And the people I knew who were published, well, they never seemed to actually earn any money anyway. So it was a complete surprise that when I was made redundant from my day job 10 years ago, and I thought I needed a break. So I would just write a novel with the money they paid me to when they let me go. And I had just enough to write one, send it off. I had an agent and interest from a publisher at the time, and I'd send it off and then I'd go and get a proper job. But that never quite happened because I started selling books, just enough to keep it going. And now 10 years later, I'm still going. So that's how I came to be writing.
Oh, that's epic. Then you're living the dream, man. That's where the rest of us want to be. All right, Morten.
All right. So voracious reader start, but slightly different from everyone else. I actually got my start in nonfiction. I was reading a lot of military history. Was really big into that. Matter of fact, third grade teacher talked to my parents because I was reading a lot of advanced books that they didn't think I should be reading. But it went hand in hand with my hobby at the time, which was wargaming. A lot of Avalon Hill products that I played. Was a lot of fun, and my dad was military, so we moved around a lot. That was an easier thing to transport than tubs and tubs worth of books, is several war games that I could then do also on my own. But like I said, eventually I got around the electronic age to writing fan fiction with a bunch of friends on AOL, Arrows Online, which is a Mercedes Lackey Valdemar type writing group. And that was a lot of fun, but the problem with fan fiction is a lot of competing ideas between a lot of people with a lot of ideas and a lot of imagination. And it's fun to do, but you tend to lose creative control. So I started going off and just writing my own stuff, and I had an opportunity to do that a couple of times on long, boring deployments to the Gulf. Got a lot of exploring on style and other genres that I wanted to write in. And then, but then I had to set that aside as the family came along and doing a lot of things with the kids and developing my job. And it was only just, again, recently, like I said, that I rediscovered what I was doing with writing, got back into role-playing games, found that I enjoyed being the dungeon master more than I enjoyed being the player, like creating those worlds and the concepts that went behind them. So that's where I ended up with, like I said, J.F. Holmes saw some of the stuff that I was posting, and he encouraged me to write some more and to actually look at getting published. I never even thought of getting published. Maybe publishing a dungeon module or something like that, but not actually writing a book and getting published that way. So it's been kind of as everybody else, it's a long, strange ride to get to where we're at, but we're finally here, and the future looks a lot different than maybe what we thought about it 10 years ago.
Mike, you are a rare unicorn in that you like to be the DM over the player.
Yeah, it's what's that internet meme? Some guy says, "I want to write an adventure and then play in it myself." To which then he responds, "I've been informed this is called writing a book."
Yeah.
So exactly, that's why I want to write the adventure and then I want to play in it in my own head.
I haven't got to play in decades. I'm always the DM anymore. Let's see. Okay. Falciani, you're the last one.
All right. Saving the best for last. Or in this opinion, I just happen to be last, but that's all right. Yeah, I think I'm kind of rare. I knew I wanted to write early on, even as a little kid. I mean, I remember my father brought home the basic edition of Dungeons and Dragons, and it was a gift from my brother, who set it aside and said, "I don't know what this is." And I picked it up and said, "I'm reading this." And the next thing you know, I was sitting there going, "What kind of books do we have like this? I want to read this kind of thing." And as I went through the years, kind of like Richard, I'm also a teacher, so I think we have some things in common, Richard. He said he was reading, a book where he said, I bet I could do something like this. I was reading a book. I'm not going to say what it was, but it wasn't that great. And I remember thinking, I could do better than this, not knowing just how much time and energy and work and passion goes into it. But once I made that decision, I said, "Hey, I'm gonna go ahead and do what I can." David Gemmell, who is an author of so many great works, he kind of showed me the kind of writer I wanted to be. And once I read, some of his, Waylander and Hero of the Realms, whatever, I was sitting there going, "Man, this is the kind of writer I want to be. This is the kind of stuff I like to write." I mean, I've always liked epic fantasy, and now I get these strange looks. Like I went to my softball game the other day. They said, hey, what are you doing down there? I was like, "Well, I'm trying to figure out my magic system. I have a hierarchy." They're like, well, you're up to bat. Like, all right, let me go do that real quick. So I mean, I think as an author, you find any time you can to think about this stuff. Richard said, he has to write on his lunch break. I'm right there with you, man. I'm right there with you. Summer break's coming up. I plan on doing a lot of writing in the summer. Like, I gotta get it in. But for me, yeah, I always knew I wanted to write. I was lucky. I had a lot of tale tellers in my house. So I felt like, yeah, that's something I feel like I can do. So that was it.
Okay. Well, now go ahead and tell us where we can find your stuff at.
You can find my stuff at, well, it's not officially out yet, but in 9 days, you should be able to find it on Amazon. You should be able to find it on Three Ravens Publishing. You can find me, Michael K. Falciani. You can follow me on Facebook. I'm also on Twitter. I recently got rid of my webpage because it was too difficult for me to figure out. So I'm going to try to get another webpage out there. But yeah, those are the places you can find me. Facebook is my main spot. So you want to find me, Michael K. Falciani, and everything that I have will be posted on there.
Phil.
All right. Well, let's see. I do the Facebook thing still. And you can find me as Philip K. Booker on Facebook. I have an Instagram presence too, but I'm not as IG godly as Mr. Roberts there. But you can find my stuff on Amazon as well as on Three Ravens Publishing, and yeah, I guess Chris Kennedy Publishing as well with the romance piece. But with Three Ravens, I'm in Pros and Cons. That's the statue that used to be outside the Choo Choo for LibertyCon. Somebody threw the Jane hat on. Gotta love that. Also with
I took that picture too.
Yeah. We got Children of the Corner is one of our larger anthologies, and Napkin Notes. And then I have 3 pieces coming out this month. I've got one with Jersey Pines Inc. It's called Whodunit. I've got 2 with Three Ravens with Starflight. I've got an entry in that, as well as the Corner Scribblers Invasion anthology. I've got 2 pieces in that. So actually 4 pieces coming out next month. I'm digging that. That's the kind of flow I want.
Tim.
You can find me on Facebook. I have a Human Legion page there, and the website is humanlegion.com.
Paula.
Hello, it's me again. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. Let's see. My website is www.otherrealmstudio.com, and you can find my comics like this one. And I also have hatchable dragon eggs with their change jar habitat, which there's too much glare, you can't see it.
Oh, that's cool.
And yeah, that's how I fund the art for my comics. I sell goggles and hatchable dragon eggs and cosplay accessories at Comic Cons. Let's see. You could also find my novel and comics on Amazon. Let's see. If you want to look me up on Twitter, I am Richey_Paula. And oh yes, and I have another convention this year. It's going to be in person. Soda City Comic Con in Columbia, South Carolina on Halloween. So if anyone wants to come say hey there, I will actually be in person and have stuff.
Morten.
Okay, so yeah, primarily I'm on Facebook. I haven't gotten around to creating a separate author page, so right now it's just my personal page and my author stuff on one profile. But you'll find me participating a lot in the Command Post, which is run by JF Holmes Canon Publishing and primarily focused on military sci-fi, but we talk about other things there too. And then Three Ravens has the JTF13, the fan appreciation or something like that page, where we also talk about the supernatural in the military there. You can find my stuff on Amazon. And then if you happen to be a government employee, I'm on the global address there, Michael J. Morten. You can hit me up if you want to talk about some other stuff there as well.
All right, Richard.
Hi. Well, I have basically zero online presence. You can find my my short stories and my novel at Amazon or silverempire.org is the publisher's website, and both of those places, and hopefully some more. I'll add some more things. I'll have to come get some tips next time I see you guys on how to set all this up.
And Ann Lewis.
You can find me. My website is annmargaretlewis.com. It's pretty easy. That's just my name, annmargaretlewis.com. All my books are on there. I am not, well, I have a Twitter account, but I really don't post on Twitter because I find it to be a wretched hive of scum and villainy. So I primarily hang out on Facebook. I do have a Facebook group for my work, so you can, you know, do that, or you can just follow me. I'll friend you. It's fine. The other thing, you can also find my books on silverempire.com. They're on Amazon. Silver Empire actually has a sale going on, doesn't it, guys? At Richards and Silver Empire. So they have a little sale going on for LibertyCon. So
I know that Hans Schantz had something going on for Memorial Day. Was that the one, or did Morgan put something?
It's still up as far as I could tell. I think they were going to have it up through the actual convention when it's running. What I can do is I will put it up on my website. Okay, so if you want to see the Silver Empire sale for LibertyCon, I will put it up on my website. I'll put it on the front page if I can in my blog area. So, if you want that, you can go there.
Okay, cool. And again, I am your host and moderator, William Joseph Roberts. You can find my stuff at williamjosephroberts.com or over at 3ravenspublishing.com. Otherwise, have yourselves a good evening and thank you. Yay.